evacuation scattering my family all over the United States, I felt like it was an ancient memory, as if we had been up on an auction block.
Some people suggested that this was akin to slavery. Oh no, you're being hyperbolic. You're just engaging in all forms of racial inflammatory rhetoric. Calm down. Well, the fact is, they were treating them like slaves in the ship. Families were being separated. Children were being taken from their mothers and fathers. Those who were more weary and those who were more likely to be vulnerable were separated from those who were stronger. Babies literally ripped out of the arms of their mothers and fathers. The separation of the evacuation, where people lost sight and lost sound and lost sense of their loved ones.
I'm TJ, and this is Life Lessons. As you all know, I shared with you a little over a week ago, I watched Ryan Coogler's Hurricane Katrina Race Against Time, and then I followed it up with watching Spike Lee's When the Levees Broke. But since then, I've had my husband sit down and watch Ryan Coogler's documentary with me, so I'd seen it twice. And just like with each movie you see more than once, you see something different. And as for those of you who don't know, my husband was born and raised New Orleans, Lower Ninth Ward. And I wanted him to see it. And initially, he really wasn't really feeling it, but he later said that he was glad that I really pressed that upon him, because he saw some things and understood some things that he did not know before, particularly how the media spun it, like I've already talked about. And some people say, well, Katrina was 20 years ago. Why are they doing it again now? Well, it's important to do that because you have at least two generations, younger millennials and zennials, who have no idea the significance of Hurricane Katrina. So it needed to be brought to their attention because, see, now they can understand and look back and see how the government, the city, state, and federal government failed them on every turn. Not unlike my husband, who can look back now because he was born 5 or 6 months before Hurricane Betsy, to find out that they knew what should have been done and wasn't. They knew. So it's very sobering to see in real time and from the real people who lived it, how they just didn't give a damn and still don't. That's why I've had to take a couple of days back, because see, when they talk about ignorance is bliss, I understand now. Because with knowledge is the reality of knowing that they never did care and they're not going to care. And inasmuch as there are definitely some racial implications there, for sure, it is really about the haves and the have-nots. And when you see how they treated the majority Black people, because that's who were affected primarily, I'm not going to say it's right when I hear or when I heard the indifference expressed to those who were affected by Hurricane Helene, as well as what has happened in Texas last month. I'm not saying it's right, but I'm saying I understand. When you see how, we care about the babies that were affected in Hurricane Helene in Tennessee, but didn't our babies matter? When they were hungry, when they were thirsty, when their relatives were dying right next to them? Or didn't our family members matter when, kind of like what she's talking about, it was reminiscent of being on the auction block when we compare it to now, how families are being taken, babies ripped out of their parents' arms, and you don't know where your loved ones are? Is that not similar? How they talked about there was so much violence going on in New Orleans. But the truth of the matter is, people were hungry. People were thirsty. People were, in pain. Talked about the looting. Yeah, they were looting, like I said before. And there were some people probably doing some nefarious things, but not to the magnitude that the government as well as the media portrayed it to be, juxtaposed to how it is being or was being depicted when Helene happened, because the people were hungry, thirsty, dying in the cold. And what happened in Texas? Needing supplies. Didn't send the National Guard to any of those places to maintain law and order or pointing weapons at the people that they were supposed to be helping. Let's keep it square, shall we? They did that to keep the Blacks in order. Yeah. Let's talk about it. So yeah, the story needs to be told. Because see, regrettably, regrettably, I don't know, fortunately, I don't know. When we were raised, Gen Xers and older, we were raised with the understanding, right or not, that people did not see us as equal. And we were taught that we had to be twice as good to be considered as good. Whereas that the younger people they were raised to believe that everything is a-okay, and they're finding out. In as much as there have been some improvements, I'm not gonna lie and say there hasn't, but there's an undercurrent that still remains. Like it or not, still remains.
Refugees, the Astrodome is refugee ready. It's a very strange thing to see people that look like people you know, or see people that look like people in your family on television, and they're being talked about as if they're refugees or homeless people. And that was hard to take.
When I heard they call us refugees, I couldn't do nothing but drop my head. Because I see I'm a United States citizen of America. Call me a refugee.
What kind of shit is that, man? Refugees. They were referring to when this thing first happened, people leaving wars. They were refugees. Yeah, when the storm came in, that blew away our citizenship too. We forgot we weren't American citizens anymore. What kind of shit is that? In the media, and people on the street, refugees. I thought that was folks that didn't have a country, man. That didn't have anywhere.
I was talking to my husband the other day, and I got emotional, and I was like, with everything our parents and grandparents and great grandparents had to deal with, I would like to think, even us, without knowing how the world really was, we were happier. Because when you consider how much we are inundated with the depravity, the callousness of the world at large, our government and every city, state, federal agencies, when we think about what's happening in Texas, is it better to know or not know? And I think because our ancestors didn't know, they believed in something better. They hoped for something better. Whereas that if they would see it playing out before their very eyes, they would have known the truth and said, why even try? Very sobering. Those are my thoughts. What are yours? Take it with you.